Hi. Oh man. Well, I thought what I would do is I would start a series. It'll be a pop up series. So eventually you'll catch me live if you're on YouTube or Facebook, depending on what time it is that I choose to do it. I've been thinking about sharing my practices and like who I am in those practices and how they came about. And it's it's interesting because I'm not really sure a whole lot of people want to know, but I have this compelling urge to share. So I thought I would do that. I'm very reticent about it, obviously. However, here we go. So beliefs start for me. My view is that beliefs start the moment we're able to start absorbing the world around us, right? And it may not be cognitive or deciphered or discernible in the moment, right, because of how old we are and measures that we've created in our psyche, yet we're absorbing the world around us and it's mostly energetic for us. And so for me, I didn't understand um, what I was experiencing after my mom had passed. And so I had seen my mom after she passed. My sister, who was 2, was standing next to the bed, um, talking with her. And my dad was at the foot of the bed and he was softly crying into the foot of the bed because he had just come from the funeral and we were not allowed to go to the funeral. So we stayed home. Can't remember who watched us. I just know we were in the bedroom with daddy. And my mom was laying on the bed, and this is after the funeral, so she's passed, and I'm seeing her in an apparition, I guess. She was very real to me. My sister was talking to her, and I saw that they were in a conversation. I could perceive that. And then what happened was that my mom asked me to come over, and so like I went over there, and she said, "Tell Daddy, Mommy said everything's going to be all right." And I go, "Okay, Mommy." So I walk back around and I go to the other side where I'd been and I start patting my dad on his shoulder and I tell him, I go, "Mommy said, Daddy, Mommy said everything's going to be okay." And he just like, ooh, he loses it. So that was like my first experience of taking something from spirit, a message, and delivering it to an individual. And I was 5. It jaded me a bit, I wasn't necessarily Mm. I wasn't necessarily. I'm just going to do this right now. There we are. Okay. I wasn't necessarily prepared to navigate that sort of a life, but that was what was presented to me. And maybe it was my little psyche splitting so that way I could accept her loss. And maybe, who fucking knows? But that was my experience. That was my lived experience. So I had a few more interactions with my mom um, after a few years. And then one day I didn't want to have them anymore because it was really painful because she wasn't real. She wasn't like in my perception. She wasn't tangible. She wasn't physical. So she wasn't there. And it was really difficult for me. And her mom was raising us. And because my grandmother was raising us and that was her daughter who passed, it was like very chaotic, a lot of noise in my head trying to decipher what my world meant to me. And I was having these energetic, spiritual, um, extra perceptions, and it was very difficult. It was just challenging, and there wasn't anybody to really navigate with me for it. But my grandmother was also. I know she could see. I know she could perceive and understand and feel the realms because she would say so like as I'm growing up. Okay, so it's kind of it was interesting. I had my dad and my mom were both alcoholics. My mom had quit drinking, and so when she first had the experience, they thought it was just a grand mal seizure, sent her home, and then she lost consciousness, I guess. And then my dad took her to the hospital, and she never came back. And that was all within a matter of 2 to 3 days. She was 42 years old. And then, goodness, yeah. So that leads to like another experience before that. Like there've always been these experiences, these paranormal, extra normal experiences. I was 3 years old and I lifted a Sparklets water bottle, a glass water bottle that was full of water, and I got up on top of um, a stool to do so. And I did it because I could see that my mom was changing the Sparklets water bottle, right? So because she's changing the Sparklets water bottle, I'm thinking I'm going to be helpful. And I literally position it to where I can hand it to her so it'll be easy. And I'm only 3. When I do it, she just like, ah, and I drop it. And that's how I got like one of my little scars on my ankle. There's just like there's different things that we do through life that maybe until we're told no, that's not how it works, that's when we start believing differently, right? So what are your beliefs? Like, what are your beliefs? What do you believe in? Do you believe in yourself, right? I believe in myself. I believe in a lot of things. One of the things is that somebody asked me if I had a particular belief, and I don't. I think that everyone's belief is right. I think it's correct. I think it matters. I think it's the right one for them. And I don't think that a massive amount of people thinking in the same direction um, is, um, let's see, is the reason for something to be the right way. I don't think that. I think that it's, a show of people feeling aligned to a certain belief system and moving toward that. And I think that that's okay. I think all of that's okay. I think that exploring life is what this is all about. And all of the ways we act and think and feel, those are our spiritual beliefs at any different, at any different time. So I just learned to apply things because of how my life is unfolded. And so as I was growing up, I really wanted to escape, like being the daughter of a drunk, right? And that was not my perception, that was my friends' perceptions. Or, the mean girls that lived in the neighborhood. There were a few. And so shaming me was like the name of the game to make them feel better. And that was difficult. I was really young, very impressionable. And man, I did anything to like get people to like me because I didn't want them to think poorly of me, because it was really hard to be without something that is as integral at that time to other people, right? A mom. Okay. And then have somebody tell me, the reason is because my father is blah, blah. So different things like that. So that was kind of like what shaped me. So I've always been externally looking for something to solve that internal monologue. I have lots of words for it now, so that makes it all different. It's all different now than it was when I was 2, 3, 5, 16, 20. I'm 65 now. So I have a pretty good understanding for myself of how the universe works. And it wasn't until I came into metaphysics that I began to understand the world around me and how I was experiencing it, because I gained a language. So metaphysics is actually spiritual philosophy. It's your belief system in play, and shows you your belief system is what manifests your world. That's what you work toward. That's what you get inspired by. That's what you get purpose driven or direct in your life. And so it's your belief system that leads you or guides you, that allows you to move toward whatever the endeavor is. So I became very like this with my beliefs at one point, because I had an experience with my sister, and my sister and we don't talk, so it's very interesting. I've had to accept that that's going to be my life until it changes. And it's okay. I'm good with it. But because of our differences, we have parted ways. And in that, I know that she's had phenomenal experiences as well. And when our belief system separated, I had like this really crazy thought that I couldn't get rid of, that was, she could steal my God. She could steal my God, the God of my understanding. And that was really strange. So I was probably practicing some kind of psychosis at the time. And I was really, because, you come into a lot of knowledge about what you believe. you know, you get there through practice. You'll learn something and you'll either practice it or you'll negate it, one or the other, and that's still a practice in knowledge of whether you apply it or not. And you're incorporating it into your energetic system, your world, so that way you go into a flow. The flow allows you to become that which you desire. What you desire is a feeling, what you desire is a thought, and it's all brought through and you act toward it. And that's how you know, that's the magnetic, because those opportunities highlight for you because of the vibration that you choose. Those are the language things that I needed. I didn't understand how my body was operating, how I was able to sometimes get something that I wanted, but everything that I ever prayed for, right? I could receive that. And so for a very long time, I was in formal religions and Christianity, and my mother was Catholic. And so I grew up in both worlds in understanding and not in practice because, it was just interesting. So I have knowledge of, and I never felt aligned toward any one practice. I always felt like I belonged to everything, like everything made better sense when I was part of everything. And I couldn't really share that with people because I couldn't explain what that was for me. So for me, it turned into oneness when I came into metaphysical studies and practices. So oneness. And that put me right back into all of my foundational practices. So we have many references to oneness. We call it energy, we call it akasha, we call it spirit, we call it God, universe, source. We call it so many things, and none of us say it isn't there. We all agree that it's there. And when we learn a language that satisfies us in that acceptance, we can move with it because it becomes us. We accept who we are in that moment from that belief. So learning this throughout the course of time has allowed me to kind of open up for myself a connection to who I am, to the earth, right? And looking through my ancestry and coming into alignment with my ancestry and doing a lot of forgiveness, healing, and changing practices way a lot, because they needed to change. And there's so many different things that people of European descent, of my color, right? We're I don't think there's very much resilience built in the way that people think there's resilience, not in the oppressive aspect, but there's a lot of resilience because we're raised very rageful, very rageful. We're taught that we should be grateful to have the privilege of being who we are. And it's all undertones and nuances and innuendo. Nothing is said out loud. Nothing is said out loud. And we believe it because the people that tell us we trust. And that has to be undone. It has to be unwound. And then something else needs to be introduced so that as we process, we're not processing using the same thinking that got us to where we are right now. It's not helping anything. It's not helping anyone at all. What could help us is unity. Unity could help us. If we look through a lens of oneness and we look at similarities, the similarities allow us to have that cohesive nature. The cohesive nature promotes community. It allows us support of one another. support of ourselves, and reciprocity. There's so much that can come from it by looking just for similarities. We accept differences in shame. We think that if we're different, that isn't okay. I learned that through life. I learned how I was treated, showed me that I wasn't accepted for external values that I was living. Nobody in those circumstances were asking me, hey, how are you? It wasn't out of concern that they were, you know, seeking to share my life in their version to other people. So what could I possibly do? Nothing. It's not my job to police other people. And frankly, your opinion of me is your opinion of me. I have one. And it varies. It varies all the time. It depends on how I'm feeling of my day with myself. So anyway, when I came into metaphysics, it taught me that there was something that could describe the experiences that I was having, and I had had them since a very young age, and not just psychic or clairvoyant experiences, not premonitory dreams, because I was already having that. It turns out those are like lucid dreams. That's what a lucid dream is. It lines you up for what's to come. You can do it on purpose. There's different things that you can do. I did have profound visionary dreams as I was growing up. And those profound visionary dreams have come to pass. I've watched them in timelines come to pass, which is very interesting. When 2020 came, I was given a timeline, and I knew that the 2020 timeline that I was given wasn't going to happen in 2020. All right. I knew it would happen right around now, which is very interesting. Does it mean that there's anything to impart about it? No, because there is this momentum that's in motion, that's pointed in a particular focus. And so it isn't about jumping in front of the momentum. It's about redirecting the focus. It's about redirecting the energy of the focus towards something that could benefit more the masses, the people, right? All of the people, so that we can make the changes necessary that will allow us better lives and the future generations better lives. And there is so much that we can choose to support and be a part of. Okay. Apparently I'm also an activist. My little comb over right there. Oh God. Okay. What else? I love belief systems. Belief systems I found to be very beneficial to not only the individual, but to me, because the philosophy behind them are some of the things that I already practice. And I watch YouTube videos from different practices of different people to see like what they are practicing and what they call it, so that way I have more knowledge. And I take myself to temples so that way I can see what those practices are and be a part of them, saturate myself in the energy of that practice, because I want to support the tradition of going in there. So I want to be a part of all of that. I want to honor it. I want to treat it sacred, things like that. There's just different, like going to the ocean is very sacred for me. It's a big body of water, but it means so much. My grandmother, she lived in Long Beach, right? And so Long Beach, and then my mom and dad met playing volleyball on the sand. So, it just means a lot to me. So the beach is where my dad would take us in the summertime, me and all my friends. He was just willing. So it really means a lot. So the water has always calmed me. I've swam in the ocean forever. I love it. And all of it feels like home. It always feels like home, like a giant rejuvenation experience. So if I go to a body of water and I stand there, it can mean so much because I've had so much experience with it. And so your belief will come from that, right? So my belief comes from the soothing nature of my dad showing up for me and my friends, even when he couldn't show up for himself. The ingenuity that he had in the different things that he was able to provide for us with the little that he had. There are different things that come to the ocean because it's such a beautiful experience, right? And in that, now I'm going to open up my heart chakra. The energy is going to kind of flow. That's the measure between here and there. It's the same, right? As above, so below means that everything's in existence. That's what that reference is. Mostly, I've learned to pay attention to, I would say, vibration and light. Light can usually represent as color. So if you look at something directly, a lot of times you can watch a sheen appear just outside of it. And if you keep watching without blinking, because you're not clearing and refocusing your sight, it will get larger and amplify. Okay. And that's how you do aura watching, if that's what you'd like. So for frequencies are built in several different ways. Motion, so movement, action, right? A feeling can do it, and also a thought. So now we have mind, body, spirit all together, right? Then that's going to harmonize those three frequencies if they're all the same. Like if you're acting grateful and you're thinking about gratitude and you're feeling gratitude, that means you're in that mind, body, spirit trifecta. Now you're fully present, all 30 plus trillion cells come online, and you're in the present moment. And this is the easiest way to gather up the power that you would like to generate, to put forward, that you want to experience. And that's basically what quantum alchemy would be. All right. And you're gathering yourself. So you're gathering yourself, how you feel about it. Okay. You're also gathering your willingness. Your will is here. Okay. So your thoughts about it and what actions will inspire you to drive you toward it. All right. So you're gathering your power. All right. Your intention. And as you gather it, you're building it through, I wonder if this would be cool. Oh, this might be good. I'd like this kind of a result. I would love this. I would love this. I would love this. If you build it through experience rather than material aspects, you will get the material aspects because they are literally already in play. And you're just waiting. You're waiting for them. So you're not pushing against them by continuing to ask and pushing the energy out to the universe. So now they're just a magnet, and it can come. All right. Ask for experience. Wouldn't it be nice to have that beautiful ride with the wind down and the sun out? Different things like that. You're shifting energy consciousness. You are consciousness. That's what I found out. That's what makes us so powerful. Everything that you say comes true. Doesn't that just blow your mind? Everything you say comes true. That should blow your mind. Every time you think something is going a certain way, it is. It is. There's no changing it until you change your mind or change your feeling or change your action around it. It is what you say it is. All right. Now, if you're having an experience with another individual, okay, and you're literally saying, okay, this individual has so much import that whatever I say isn't really going to matter. I'm just going to gravitate toward what they say. You can see that this would be what people would refer to as giving up your power, right? And maybe it's going into an entrainment where now you're both going to cycle and move around each other in this energy and still have free will, but now you have spaciousness and you're in the same flow rather than like Pisces, two fish swimming against each other, right? Maybe it's more harmonious for you. All right. There's different things that we can do to notice or recognize when those flows are available. How are you feeling? Noticing how other people are feeling around you. right? Not jumping into trying to fix, but just recognize, letting go of what isn't the flow that you would like to create, and amplifying the flow that you would like through thought, through feeling. I really like feeling grateful. I like the appreciation that it comes with. I enjoy joy. I love harmony. I love being authentic. I like being real. I like the feeling of being real. I like being in alignment with who I am. I like to speak about things that make sense to me in my mind and in my spirit and in my body. I like to be in alignment with the things that I am wishing for. I like to be in alignment with what I've asked to receive. I love the experience building around me with the energy that I'm using right now, building it out of fluff and nonsense and allowing it playfulness until I put it in front of me and I give it an intention. Then I can move it forward in the direction of the momentum that I've chosen. So now I'm in a flow state. All right. The flow state that I'm in can be beneficial, and I can just let it roll, and I can say, great, I would love an opportunity for this to happen down the road. I would love for more people to come to the moons that I'm hosting. I know they will, so that's why it's a gimme for me. I'm asking for something that has the least amount of resistance. Why would I not? Why would I want to put in too much effort and derail myself from the ask? Why not ask for ease? Right? Let it be easy. Let it find me easily. Let me be in reciprocity. Let me be of service to others. Right? Alignment takes many forms. The vibrations are all different. Vibrations are a built layering, if you will, or lamination of different frequencies that you're practicing. And we are all frequencies. We are all frequencies. We have all frequencies available to us. And through our connection of oneness, Akasha, spirit, source, universe, we have access to all that is because we are all that is. Not incarnate at this point and incarnate at this point. We are all that is. All right? However you view it, whatever your story is, if it is God is outside of me and external, and you are an extension of God, all right? If you have a God of your own understanding and it is through another practice that you have, that is perfect. It is yours. That's your foundation. That's how you get there. This is a way to expand speaking with consciousness, all right? It is feeling into the situation. Sometimes, right now especially, we're being overwhelmed and overstimulated with things that are not very good, that don't feel very good, that don't think very openly. And in that, we are literally being told how to behave and what to show up for. It's your choice. Remind yourself, it's my choice how I want to show up. It's my choice what I want to be involved in. It's my choice. It's my choice. It's my choice. And allow it. Allow that you're enough, because all the decisions that you've made to date have allowed you to be where you're at right now. Okay? Whether you're determining it to be not so great or determining it to be like, woo, victory, success, coming here, right? That's you. You're choosing the story and you're living it. So make it a good one. Make it a great story. Okay. So I've always been afraid to talk about my clairvoyant, all of the clairs. I have all the clairs. So I can hear, I can hear, I can see, I can feel, and I can know. And I oversimplify it in class because I feel and I think that we all access this energy in similar ways, and I'd like to show you. So, a red apple. Okay, so whether you were able to picture it, whether you were able to taste it, whether you were able to think about what a red apple, what did she say, all the thought that you had, that's claircognizance. What you perceived, that's clairvoyance. If you turned it into a picture, you get double. All right. So clairvoyance. All right. And if you talk to yourself about it, that's clairaudience. You could hear yourself. All right. And it wasn't from a digital device. Right. And if you had a feeling about it, right, then you're clairsentient. Right. How do I feel about this red apple? What the heck? All right. Great. Now you're seeing and understanding you already possess these skills. I've honed them because I was in survival mode from childhood. So because my external world was showing up and my internal world was showing up and everything in between, I had to figure out how to survive what I was experiencing, and this is what was developed. And that's the same for all of us. It's the same. we're all very similar, so similar. So we have different experiences that creates our individuality, that allows us the expansion of the universe, that goes into that existential thought process of like everything connected to everything, that butterflies around itself, all that good stuff. Okay, great. So come back. Everybody has a belief system, some belief system. That belief system is right. It is the right system for you. It is, absolutely. A lot of times when we're uncomfortable and somebody is discussing belief systems, the reason we're uncomfortable is because ours is about to change. Ours is about to change, and we're like, oh, wow. Hey, hey, hey. All right. And that's normal. That's very normal because you want to protect what's yours because it helps you operate. It's like your internal operating system. It lets you discern the world around you. It gives you like platitudes for like actionable steps in certain circumstances. I mean, it's you, right? Okay. So you could see why being open and having an open container, right, might be more beneficial, right? Because then you're not necessarily in an only situation like, well, I learned all this and this is all there is. You can live that way. A lot of people live that way, right? They live that way, and that story feels so old and tired, right? It feels so old and tired. There isn't too much that you can do to help them gain extra perception because they're living their story so ingrained that is the only way that they'll allow it to be. All right. So here's a cheat. All right. This is a cheat. I like to, when I feel like my story, my monologue, my dialogue, okay, is in a direction that is not benefiting me. All right. If I catch it, because you have to recognize that you're talking to yourself in maybe not a so great way. If you're talking to yourself in a not a so great way and it's about another individual, you're the only one listening, so you think it's you anyway. All right? So when you're talking not so good about something, all of your cells are paying attention. They always pay attention. And now they're going to behave in the frequency that you're creating through the thought and the vibrational communication and feeling you have over what you say. So if it's something that is diseased or diminishing, you'll feel tired, exhausted. You'll feel like there isn't enough. All right. If you're telling a story where you're happy because life is okay and you're just letting it be okay. You're looking maybe ironically at some of the things that are going on. Maybe some of the horrors that we're seeing, all right, we can stand and observe so we have clear consciousness and clarity for inspired action, right? Okay. When you're in the vibration of the discontent, all right, you will behave with discontent, and it perpetuates more because that is the focus, and you're developing a momentum, and you're jumping into a flow that already exists, and you're adding to it that, right? And that's vibration. That's, we're in a vibrational universe, very vibrational. Okay, it's a vibe. Life is a vibe. Now, we want to gain clarity. We do. We really want to gain clarity. We want to know what is the right way. Your way is the right way for you. Keep that in mind. So now that means that we look for overlaps and similarities. Oh, we could talk about this because this is comfortable. Did you know that I do this? No. Oh, and you do that? And that's okay too. And those are the conversations that we need to have about belief systems. All right. Now, we could probably have some spectacular guidelines like no killing. That would probably be really good. That would be hands down A-okay. All right. Now, I don't know what no killing means because we're split on everything anyway. So we would have to like break it all down into blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Maybe no war. Maybe that'd be better. Who knows? No, because like you could sense consciousness showing us, then they would call it a conflict. They would call it this. They would call it this. They would call it this, because the momentum is already present. So it's not our resistance or our withdrawal that you're noticing and recognizing. It is that you're noticing that you're not holding that vibration and you're not in that flow. You haven't chosen to get into that flow yet. You're in a different flow state. Maybe the flow state that you're in is ease. Okay. Maybe it's observation. Okay. How I like to look at it, okay, is I do this. I go, oh, that has cooties. That's my hack. Because I'm going to pull my energy back from it because I don't want anything. I don't want it on me. So it's going to be, ooh. All right. And you could do that when you're in a situation that feels slightly overwhelming, or maybe you're practicing something that is really not what you want any longer. And that's what shapes us, is our behaviors. And our behaviors are generated in a variety of ways now. And if we get to select our behaviors instead of be stimulated into our behaviors, we become more powerful. We become more cognizant. We become more real to ourselves and for ourselves. I'm watching the light in the back right here. I'm watching the light in the back right here. It was going on and off, on and off, on and off. And they're solar lights, so I was just laughing. Anyway, just noticing stuff. All right. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. And I'm going to do the series. I'm going to keep talking about how life works for me and reinforcing that how it works for you is correct. And what we're doing is we're beginning to add cohesive authenticity of inclusivity. And that's what we're doing in consciousness by coming together and recognizing that maybe our views differ and we're still in this together, right? Our views differ, still in it together. All the humans, all the plants, everything is relative. Everything that has a vibration is part of you, and everything has a vibration. Everything. No matter how you categorize it. See, we still say it exists. We still say it exists. All right? All right. So, what I did for my practices was I was raised in a Protestant background, and that was generated because my mom passed, but also because when my dad and mom got married, they'd already had previous marriages, and my mom wanted us to be Catholic. My dad was willing to do that. And when they went to the church told them that we were bastard children, and that kind of irked my dad. So my dad was like, oh, we're going to do the Protestant thing. And so we did the Protestant thing. And that was like, you know, what's interesting to me with like how I was raised is that it was debauchery from Monday through Saturday, and then forgiveness Sunday, right? And it was just a trip to see people. You know, at that time, there was no push to like represent yourself as this great person. It was like that person, you had to go to them so that you could be washed and felt better. And then when I got older, I fell away from the church and started practicing hedonistic behavior. You can look it up. And my life of debauchery started, which was kind of cool. And I was very happy about that. And I got pregnant when I was 18. We lost that child at 20. Both of us were 20. And, well, he was 21 and I was 20. And from there, we learned a lot of things. About a year after we lost our daughter, we went into another church. All right, because, you know, God has to be the answer, even though you're really mad, because how could God do this to you? Because that's the brainwashing. Okay. And so we went into the church, and when I went into the church, it was a very loving environment filled with people who I was looking for. I was looking for ease. I was looking for love. I was looking for acceptance, and they provided that. And so I went to extra classes and I learned all kinds of things. And I learned lots of things. And in those things that I learned, that created like a foundation of spiritual understanding for me. It's not my only spiritual understanding. I build on it every day because I change my beliefs every day. I change and open and change and open. And that's like how I live. So when I was at this new church, right, I was really afraid because I had another spiritual experience and I was already feeling the Holy Spirit with me. And it was a beautiful feeling. And I had this fear that my parents, my grandmother and my father, my parents wouldn't be saved and go to heaven like me. And oh man, I went ahead and I talked to them and I told them, I said, hey, here's the deal. You got to come to this church with me. If you don't come to this church, I'm really afraid that you're not going to get saved the same as me. I think that what's going to happen is that we won't end up together. And I don't want that. I don't want to be left alone anymore. So I need you to go to this church. And they were like, okay, Lucy. And so they came to my church. And I felt better now. I felt much better. I even asked the pastor's daughter at the church that I grew up in, because they still attended that church, right? And because I was still blaming God for my life. And because I was blaming God for my life, that's what I was talking about being external, right? Since I was still blaming God for my life, I wasn't willing to be accountable in my thoughts and my actions. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good night. And I'll see you next time.